With that, kids, let's give a nice warm welcome to Dr. Dan Wall.
Show of hands real quick. How many first year students we have in the room? Okay, second year, third, fourth. All right, welcome. Thank you for spending your lunch with me. I really appreciate it. A few months ago, Joanna put together a panel of myself and my classmates who were just about a year out of SCNM. Like she said, I graduated in 2018. About a year and a half ago, and it was really interesting. Like, you know, when you're at SCNM, you're in this amazing bubble. You're just learning. You're with all these other people like yourself who not only chose this profession, but the profession chose them. We all have these amazing stories of how we were drawn to naturopathy. And then we graduate. It's this momentous event. I can't wait for you all to experience it. It's so much fun. It's such a cathartic release of just everything that was pent up over the 4 years of studying and working so hard. And it's a very, very proud moment. And then like the day after your family leaves, you gotta hunker down in a coffee shop or here at SCNM or somewhere else and study your butt off for boards, which come up, you know, a couple, 2.5 months after that. And then you pass those is the scariest moment of your life, followed by the best moment of your life. So you will be incredibly afraid of the mailbox. It will haunt you in your dreams, and then you know every day you'll go, it's not here yet. It's not here yet. And then you're going to get your scores, and you're all going to pass, and you're all going to be doctors. You're going to send your paperwork in and get your license, and that happens around October. So timeline, you're going to graduate in kind of May, June timeframe. Study for boards all summer. Take them first weekend of August, take 6 weeks in 2020 for some reason to get your scores back. And then by October, you're a licensed physician. So you graduate in June, and then there's this gap, and then October is when you're licensed. So, you know, and it's different. It's different. So you have all that passion, then you have this gap, and then you start. And no one tells you anything. They really don't, and it requires a lot of preparation on the front end, and we'll get into that in a little bit. One of the reasons why I feel like I'm successful and I'm not pumping our tires is that I engaged Joanna all throughout in the Career Center, all throughout my experience at SCNM, and nothing could have been more important in the end into where I am right now and finding you know, Dr. Chambers and Chambers Clinic and it being such a good fit. But when you're here, you're not really thinking about the career. You're thinking about getting through the next class. You're thinking about getting through the next test. You're thinking about you know, just getting by on a day-to-day basis, and you're not thinking ahead. In some of your cases, 4 years, you know, 3 years next year. And I want to let you know what the reality is out there, because some of it stinks. To be honest with you, it is a slap in the face. I'm going to be 50 this year, lucky me. Due to naturopathic medicine, I look like this. Although Joanna had eye surgery and now she says she sees my wrinkles. So I don't know how much this is happening. But you know, there's some things you need to know. And then that's both negative and a positive. And then the negatives become positives. And we're stronger doctors and stronger in our profession for it. And I want to let you know what some of these things are. So first of all, I want to let you know the pay is not great in the beginning. Down the line, yes. In the beginning, it's not great. The average MD resident makes $61,000 a year coming out of MD school into their residency. The average family physician who's an MD makes $181,000 up to $222,000. So around $200K. That's pretty awesome, right? But you have to remember, MDs in a family practice have insurance systems that feed them 30, sometimes up to 50 patients a day. That's a lot of patients, that's a lot of volume, that's a lot of people who are being seen for 2 and 3 minutes who aren't getting the kind of care that we provide here in our clinic at SCNM or provide as doctors outside the system. So you need to engage Jenna Boras in the SCNM office. Your loans are going to end in like June or July. You will be a licensed physician in October. That's 3 months you're not getting paid. So when I say the pay's not great, you're gonna have a 3-month gap. You're gonna have to figure out what to do with while you're studying for boards. So that requires effort on the front end of things, planning ahead. You may or may not, most people who graduate SCNM have a job lined up, but you may or may not have patients coming in. right away. Some people are lucky to get residencies. I would highly encourage you to apply. I think if I have one minor regret toward the end is that I kind of blew it off because I said, well, I'm older, I have 20 years experience in business, I'll just go into business for myself and do all this. Naturopathy or any task or anything that you want to achieve, any skill that you want to have as in your back pocket, you have to work on it on a day-to-day basis. And what I'm learning in practice in a year and a half, 2 years here is it's all about reps. It's all about reps. The same way as going in the anatomy lab here every day and learning different parts of anatomy is all about reps, and then you take that to the next course and you take it into your human biology and biochemistry and all this, and it can all make sense in your head. Dr. Schmidt was always saying it's like learning Chinese. It's like being parachuted into China and learning Chinese, right? This actually happens, but you need a lot of reps. So, residency is an opportunity either here at SCNM, at the other colleges, or at, outside practices to get in and make a salary and get reps. Following doctors, getting your own patients, learning what to do. So that's important. The other thing is, there are 2 other models out there. Some offer a salary. Chambers Clinic, we're a very large practice. We have 6 doctors and we're expanding. We just bought another clinic and we're going to be expanding even larger. We're one of the larger clinics, so I'm lucky. I get to be a staff physician. I got a salary. It wasn't much. It was kind of a resident salary the first year, but that's what I expected, and that helped bridge the gap quite a bit, which was really great. As a staff doctor, I got to shadow and be around other doctors the same as any other kind of a resident, and then figure out also how to generate patients and interest on my own, and we'll get to that in just a minute. The other model that's out there that you need to know about is that you can partner with a doc. One of the fastest ways for a naturopathic practice to grow once they get mature is to bring on new doctors. Naturopaths do this for 2 reasons. One, they're just too busy to handle the patient load that's coming in. Usually around 2, 3, 4 years, you're starting to get really, really busy if you're doing your job right. And then they're like, what do I do with all this? Well, I'm gonna hand it off to a new doc, and they can treat it. And so the price of admission to that is that, yes, you get to be in that clinic, you get to partner with this doc, you get a flow and some referrals of patients. And we're gonna hang on to that word referral. That's gonna be an important word in a few minutes. You get this flow of patients, but you get a place to be. You get to be inside of a practice. They pay the rent. They pay, a lot of practices have staff, they have medical assistants and nurses and other people that help you. They'll do your blood draws, they'll do your appointments for you. So all those expenses are paid for you, which is really great. On the flip side, they take a cut of your locally, and so if the average patient is $150 a visit, a naturopathic office may take half of that, which goes to the rent, the staff, and all the other things. So it goes to a good purpose. It also goes, to help into the cash flow to help the practice operate, to help that doctor grow the practice. But so instead of making $150 for your patient, you're making $75. That's going to you on a contract basis. Most of these are contract, and then you have to pay tax on top of that. So you're looking at like 25% tax. It's a low amount, you might get it back. There's lots of write-offs you can put against that. But that's reality out there. So, oh my gosh, there's no money coming in, there's no cash flow. How do you deal with it? All the MDs have insurance. All the patients flow to them. They don't have to do anything. They just put their name on a website, they're geolocated. Oh, they're in Chandler, Arizona, great. Patients show up on Blue Shield or on United Healthcare or whatever, and they're often on multiple insurance systems. Well, most naturopathic offices don't take insurance, so how do you do it? So you've got to learn to do a few things, and you've got to be thinking about it now. And that's number 1 is hustle. Hustle. What does that mean? You can't sit on your laurels. What somebody told me when I first started is you can't kick down doors if you're sitting behind it. You can't kick down doors if you're sitting behind it. We all want to go out there and do amazing things. But if you're just sitting there on day 1 at your desk, you're not doing anything. You're not online on social media, except maybe if you're on Facebook because you're bored. You're not out there in the world meeting people who can refer you business. And I'm back to that word referral. You really need to think about who are your referral sources. Social media is not it 100%. I'm not a good social media person. I like to do things more or less in person. But I did sign up for some sites like Health Profs. You should check that one out. It's run by Psychology Today. It's all health professionals, usually like alternative practitioners, acupuncturists, and nutritionists, and naturopaths are on there. I got a lot of leads from that because I'm one of the only people who actually practices the cliche treat the gut. So you're going to hear that over and over again as you get into the clinic. Oh, treat the gut, treat the gut. I actually specialize in treating the gut, 100%. I like the gastroenterology stuff. I have celiac disease, and that's something that resonates for me out there. But so the people who want gut health or gastroenterology specific things have found me, but sometimes they're good leads and sometimes they're not. And it's up to me to kind of make that happen. So social media is important, but you've got to be out there on a regular basis talking about it. Like I said, I'm not out there talking about gut health on a regular basis because something interesting happens, right? You go from being very confident as a fourth-year student and being kind of the king of the campus, and wow, you're in clinic and you're leading cases and you're working with doctors and stuff, but then that safety net goes away and you get very scared. You forget a lot of stuff, and then the case comes in and it's like, oh my gosh, what am I seeing here? So that comes to the second thing, which is preparation. You need to be prepared. Prepared. Everything you're learning now, you're not learning it for right now to get through the next test. You are learning this so that you can put it to use in practice 2, 3, 4 years down the line. If you're in third or fourth year right now and you're in clinic, you should be developing protocols. Protocols are the most important thing to have in your back pocket when you get to be a naturopathic doctor. It'll save your butt. You cannot wing it. When somebody comes in and you're brand new and you have spent 3 or 4 months studying and then you come to apply it, first patient out of the gate, 4 months after that, you got to know what you're dealing with because you haven't been applying information except to use it on the national exam. So you've got to have these protocols kind of in your back pocket and ready to go. So as you're studying, remember things. Remember the pearls that people tell you. The second part of being prepared, and this is also good referral sources as well, you need to have mentors out there. Because if you're trying to wing it and you don't have a protocol and a patient comes in, you're going to be freaking out. And we all do it. My first thyroid patient that came in, he was a 66-year-old guy named Bill. Bill had really low mood. He had mood swings. He was a very irritable guy. He had Hashimoto's. His thyroid was screwy. And, we fixed it. We got him on a good thyroid medication, but he'd still have a low mood, and he was still grumpy. And he turned out just to be a grumpy guy, but he yelled at me. Really, and he yelled at my staff. We'll get to that in a minute. And he was very grumpy, and I had a really bad day. Really bad day, and I was looking at everything, and I'm going, well, we're doing all the right stuff here. At least I think so. But I felt awful. I got in my car, and I called Courtney Cronin, who was one of my mentors here at SCNM, who did hormones. And I'm like, I got this guy, and his thyroid, this is the number, and she's like, okay, all right. It's okay. You're doing all the right things. On the flip side of that, I've had people tell me that it's like, no, you have to be thinking about this, and you have to be thinking about that. You've got to have these people on speed dial. The Alumni Association, Allison's here, they have a Facebook page, so when you graduate, be on the lookout for that. And it's all a bunch of naturopaths, and they'll post cases on there, like, hey, I got this really tough case that's going on right now. Here's the case, here's what I'm doing, and then people kind of chime in. But you can't necessarily crowdsource somebody's health when they're sitting right in front of you. You can do it on back end afterwards, and that's the other thing, you can buy time. If you're scared, if you're saying, gosh, I really can't figure this out, you can buy another visit. You can buy a little bit of time, talk it through, continue the appointment. Don't charge them if you have to on the second time, but you can buy time to get it right. I think the one great thing that we do, and I sell this, when people come in for visits, one of the great things about naturopaths, and there are 2 of our principles. One is that we treat the whole person, and second is we get to the root cause. And that getting to the root cause requires a Sherlock Holmesian type effort sometimes to really hone in and get it. But the beauty is that we're treating the whole person. We're getting that big intake together. We're connecting the dots, and we engage the patient as our partner in that process. And when they bought in, you're going back and forth and doing, okay, we're going to do that. Okay, well, Dr. Wool, this isn't working. Okay, we're going to now try this. We're going to try that. You can buy yourself a little time in that way. So the other thing you can be really prepared about is research. So you're going to develop these protocols, and you may have one or two things on it. It may require more than that. I treat a lot of gut health, and so I see a lot of constipation and diarrhea and GERD, gastrointestinal reflux. Well, all of those are single diagnoses, but 12 people can come in and have 12 different reasons why they have that situation going on. And so you got to think through the different permutations. You have to think through if this happens and it's not successful, because we all have a bias towards success. We all think we're smart. We all think that, oh, if I give this person glycyrrhiza for their GERD, everything's going to calm down and be amazing. That doesn't work for everybody. So you have to figure out in your protocols, well, if this happens, make it even an algorithm. If this happens, then what? What's the then what? If we use this and it doesn't work, what's your alternative? So you've got to be thinking about those things as well. I have a quick story that I skipped. I was Dr. Chambers. I was lucky enough to precept with him when I finished boards, and I had my first patient, and she came in, and I really wanted to do gut health. And my first patient on the electronic medical record system, it said constipation. I'm like, I'm a naturopath, no problem. I even had my treatment plan all ready to go and everything else. So I got to the lobby. This woman's name was Alice. She was a 55-year-old woman. And I said, Alice? And she was sitting in a chair, and she's like, yes. And she couldn't walk. And she's holding her down. And she was in 10 of 10 pain. And she was constipated. I didn't know what to do. I did the intake. Did the physical exam. She had diffuse erythema all the way across her belly. She had a diabetic ulcer on her leg. She was a mess. And she was acute, 10 to 10 pain. And in our clinic here, we send these people to the hospital. I very discreetly excused myself from the room. I had to stop myself from running down the hall. I knocked on Dr. Chambers' door. I said, I was freaking out. Mentors. I said, hey, can you come take a look? Because I'm on his license, I'm the pre-sub. He comes in, takes a look. I'm like, oh, what do you want to do? And I'm not prepared. I'm prepared for constipation. And I'm like, castor oil pack? That's a great idea. Do that and have her come back in 24 hours. It was the longest 24 hours of my life. This was my first patient out of the gate. She did it. She came back. I worried about her all night long because I thought maybe she had to go to the hospital. She came back and I took her over the belly, and the diffuse erythema was now a ball. I had sent her for imaging also on stat. Turned out she had an abscess, a double abscess, 10 centimeters on top, draining to another one 10 centimeters on the bottom, gigantic. So we did have to send her to the hospital, but I relied on my training. That was really, really important. I relied on my mentor and I relied on my training. I had things that I was looking up and thinking about. I was reverting back to our principles, first do no harm. Okay, in the back of my head, this person's acute and probably needs to go to the hospital. I asked my mentors, I asked my colleagues, they had eyes on it, and they said, probably not there yet, let's try a few things. And in the meantime, get an image. And it worked out. She went to the hospital, she had surgery, she called me, and she was super grateful. So everything is not as it seems. A diagnosis is not simply just a diagnosis. A diagnosis is not simply just a word on the page that has a treatment plan attached to it that's already in your Google Drive. There is an art to this, and that was how I learned to be prepared for absolutely everything. And there's been others since then. I've been, I don't know, lucky enough to treat 3 abdominal abscesses. And you don't see them when they present. They're really hard. But I've been able to figure it out, get it to a certain point, and then refer them. And that's not every case. Not every case is acute. That brings me to a point. You're gonna see things you've never seen in clinic. Most of the things you're gonna see are things you've never seen in clinic. The things that I told you to have a protocol for, you're not gonna have a protocol for it. They're gonna be people like Alice, who are all over the place, who had a lot going on for a couple of years besides just a simple abscess. And you're gonna try to get down to it, and you may or may not. And that's where those mentors and all that training and relying on our principles really helps. And that brings me to another point with that. There's a fine line that you walk as a new doctor. Very fine line. On the one hand, you have all this knowledge and you're so excited to use it and apply it. You have patients coming in and you're really excited to help them. And we do help them. We do great things for our patients. But one of the things is that there were all these other doctors. I work with Dr. Chambers, who's probably the expert in pain and hormones in town, one of the top guys. I work with Dr. Decker Weiss, who is the original naturopathic cardiologist. He's one of the best cardiologists in the world. In fact, he goes and tours the Middle East and treats kids with sick hearts. He lectures at the EU. Like, these are the people that I'm with. And then there's me. And I'm in my first year. And they treat me like I know what they're talking about. But you have to be vulnerable. That's something else that you really, everybody was a first-year doctor at one point, and it's okay to ask. I have to ask the guy who pays my salary on a week-to-week basis for help. It's hard. It stinks. I don't want to do it. I'm like, well, if I ask him and I look like I don't know what I'm doing, why would he pay me? And if I continually keep asking him all these questions, why do they want me here? I'm not as good. I'm not getting it done. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. It's not about that. It's about your development, and it's about your curiosity. And those things are incredibly valuable. Naturopaths, we're a small bunch. There's only several thousand of us in pretty much the known universe. But we're all a very helpful bunch. We've all been through the same schooling. We've all seen the same sorts of patients, and they all want to help. But you got to be vulnerable enough to raise your hand and ask for that help. It's easy when you're here at SCNM and you're in the clinic and you're in a 3rd or 4th year. It's expected that you need help. You don't know anything, really. It's just the start of the application of knowledge. But then you're out there and you have doctor attached to your name and people are calling you doctor. And you're like, really? Because I don't know if I helped that person who just showed up. Or this person is coming in tomorrow, and I've done all this research, and I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. I'm not sure what products to use to help them. I'm not sure which treatments are out there, new, older, otherwise, I should put in a combination to help these people. And so you have to be vulnerable, and you have to do it in a spirit of curiosity. You want to grow yourself, you want to grow your practice, and more than anything, you really want to do that in the service of your patient. So those things are very important. It's really important to raise your hand and ask for help. And sometimes, like I said, it means reaching out kind of on the slide to the people you graduated with. Some of them have seen things you haven't. But mostly to mentors and people who've been there before. Because it's really funny what happens. Alice, who had the abscess, I ended up seeing 2 more. And I was able to recognize it when it showed up. And now if it showed up, I'd be like, no problem. A guy with irritability, low libido, and all these other things, treating his hormones, pretty much no problem. At a certain age, it's pretty much no problem because I've seen it now a dozen times or more. But there are some things that come in and they're new, and it causes anxiety. It causes you to hold your breath and go, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. but there are plenty of people out there who do know what they're doing, and hopefully you can get in a practice where there's other doctors who you can ask. Hopefully you can get in a practice of vulnerability where you can raise your hand out and ask for input from other doctors. Because when that happens, somebody will say, oh, you should do this. And you go, boom. That was the thing we saw in clinic 3 years ago, and yes, that's actually what we did, and that guy got better. Oh, there was the treatment that we sent out to, we referred it to this person in the valley, and they referred back to, and this person got better. But sometimes it just requires reaching out in order to get that spark. So I would say that. The other thing I mentioned, sometimes people are not happy. You got to learn to deal with it. I think by and large, in our clinic, we treat and help a lot of people here at SCNM, and it's amazing. You get to walk in, and for you get to walk in at a relatively low rate. You get an entire team of students, and usually a doctor or two, to work on your case, and it's pretty amazing. And the cases get worked, they get chewed through, and people get better over a period of time, and it's really exciting. It's exciting when you're a student and a clinician, and it's exciting, just me being an alumnus, being on the outside, and looking in and going, wow, that's really, really cool. But you take, a lot of those people don't necessarily get mad at you because they're feeling very cared for. They get a lot of love from a lot of people. But sometimes you'll have bad days. Tamara was a woman who came to me. She was 28 years old. She's in a corporate job. Over a couple of years, she moved here from the Midwest, gained 40 pounds, moved in with a boyfriend, got really, really sad. We looked, and she had some nervous tics. She had dry skin, constipation, extremely heavy periods, was having really bad indigestion. We ran her labs. Her thyroid function was incredibly low. She had a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that's SIBO. It's something that you can talk to me about after, that I treat a lot. She was on a number of medications, some of which were managing her conditions and others which were causing different side effects. We treated her thyroid, she felt better, and this woman had a list of about 12 different symptoms, but every time she came into the clinic, there was something different going on. So the first time she came in, it was all about the low energy. The second time she came in, it was all about constipation and bowel function and indigestion. I got a call on a Friday night, Dr. Will, I don't want to be on this earth. What do you do with that? Ultimately, we had to prescribe her an antidepressant. Talked it through. She came in the next time. She had a really, really nasty cold. We treated that naturopathically. Ultimately, she came in kind of a fifth and a sixth time as we kind of got things back on track. But she just kept coming in for these different things. And at the end of the day, I got a letter. I got an email from her after about 6 or 7 visits, and she didn't want to be my patient anymore. She fired me. This patient fired me. Why? Because I didn't treat what she wanted to be treated, which was weight loss. I had her, she had come in, and the last time that I saw her, she's like, I just don't feel like I'm getting any better. And we went through all her symptoms, and they were better. Would you agree that this is better? Yeah, I'm actually doing really good, yes. How about the anxiety? Oh, that's much, much better. How about the depression? Oh, I'm not depressed anymore. How's the gut health going? Oh, that's been good. It's not 100%, but better, better, better. And then I got fired. Really what she wanted was weight loss. That was a bad day for me too. You're gonna get fired, and it's okay. Sometimes people are not ready to be seen. Sometimes people are not ready to be treated. Sometimes people have too much going on, and sometimes people have limited resources, and there's only so much you can do. Sometimes it's my fault. Maybe I should have listened and said, well, let's just focus on weight loss and not worry about these other things. But in the therapeutic order of things, the acute stuff takes precedence. If somebody's going to call me and tell me that they're suicidal, didn't have a plan, thank God, I need to treat that. If somebody comes in with a really bad cold and needs, so far gone that she needed an antibiotic treatment, you're getting an antibiotic. I don't want her to get pneumonia. I don't want her to get, so far gone that she can't function. So the weight loss was kind of in the back of my mind. We do these things, everything will go away. But you're gonna have bad days. The great thing though, on the flip side, you're gonna have a lot of very, very, very good days. Chastity is a 44-year-old woman who came to me. She's in 9 of 10 pain. She had sores all over her body, really weird sores. They looked herpetic, but the one thing she said was really weird, and she said, I really enjoy picking them. And I said, well, why do you enjoy picking the sores? That sounds really painful. She goes, Dr. Wool, it's really interesting. These, I can't even describe it. They're like little crystals. They come out of the sores. I don't know what they are, but I gotta pick them out because they're like shards of glass. And I go, okay, great. Well, one of the things we do really well at Chambers Clinic is detoxification. We have a sauna. We have a woman who does lymphatic massage or constitutional hydrotherapy, depending on what's needed. We have a colon hydrotherapist, and we have an IV lounge. And one time, and usually what we do, we'll stack these protocols on top of each other. We don't just do a sauna or just do an IV. We'll do a sauna. We'll open the umpires up with a colonic, kind of get everything cleaned out. We'll do a lymphatic massage, kind of squeeze the toxins out of the lymph. Now the colon's open, everything goes back in. Bad stuff out, throw them in for an IV, good stuff in with nutrients. And we do this, we stack these on top of each other. The people spend about 4 hours in our location, and we do it once a week. We just continue to detox. It's great for rheumatoid arthritis, it's great for autoimmune disease. We have a lot of people who do it, as part of adjunct to weight loss. But with Chastity, I did it for these sores. She was on a few different antibiotics. She was on an antiviral. They thought she had herpes, and they couldn't figure it out. But I put her through the detox process, and it was the first thing in 2 years for her that felt better. She went through it for a couple months. The sores disappeared. It was really exciting. And she went on my Facebook page just randomly and said, I am so happy. I was in 10 of 10 pain, and Dr. Wool was a godsend. He listened to me. All my other doctors made me feel like I was crazy. And I was in all this pain, and he was the only one who sat down and calmed me down and figured it out. And he was my partner, and everybody should have a doctor like this. It's like I cried. I want to cry now. And I have several patients like that who, our medicine works wonders. And you'll have a lot of good days. I think there was a couple other things. I was also going to say, one of the things I learned early on was networking. So you got to network within the naturopathic community so that you have those mentors out there. The other thing you have to network, we mentioned online marketing and offline marketing. You need referral sources. You have to get involved in the community. You have to get involved in different places where you're seeing different people offline and getting referrals in. They know, like, and trust you, and they refer people to you. Naturopathic medicine, if you go to a dinner party, you say, what are you doing? Oh, I'm studying to be a doctor. Oh, cool, what kind of doctor? Oh, a naturopathic doctor. Oh, is that like a homeopath? No, homeopathy is one of the things that we study, but no, we're family physicians. We use evidence-based medicine, but we combine it with the traditional wisdoms of the past. Wow, that sounds amazing. I wish my doctor were like that. I'm all about natural. I use essential oils. That's supposed to be a joke. I do this, I do that. I went to a dinner, the people who make rifaximin, which is one of those medical antibiotics for SIBO, they had a dinner where they had somebody come in and talk. I got a steak dinner, it was awesome. I sat there with a bunch of MD gastroenterologists, and everybody's going around the table, hey, what do you, I practice in Surprise, I practice in Scottsdale, I do colonoscopies, I do surgery for gallbladder, I do this, I do that. What do you do? Oh, I'm a naturopathic doctor specializing in gastroenterology. So, and they started talking to other people. Then it came around later, and after the talk was over and everything, everybody was still talking at the table, and Oh, and my son has been using CBD, and all of a sudden it's like, Dr. Wool, what do you think of CBD? It can be useful. Well, what else do you got? And you start talking about botanical medicine. And all of a sudden they were in, they were hooked. All of a sudden I am a star at this table because I know something they don't. And they blew me off. It's not a war. It's not a war. It's an integration. But they don't know what they don't know. It helps to specialize in something. It helps to specialize in something within the naturopathic community. When I was here at SCNM, I love Dr. Dang. I breezed through acupuncture. I don't know, there's something about it. I got really good at it. I never had a problem when I took those exams here. Or it was the thing I scored the highest on my boards too. Maybe I should have been an acupuncturist, but I like acupuncture. Other people specialize in botanicals. You know, I think like if you hear like Dr. Gaines or Dr. Messer, or the people who teach homeopathy, they specialize in homeopathy. They double down on homeopathy. They double down on acupuncture. They double down on their knowledge of herbs. So it's really important to have a specialty, something that you enjoy in naturopathy that you do that's specific to you, because you will get in a practice with a bunch of other doctors who don't know it as well. There are people in our profession, Dr. Messer, for instance, in homeopathy, everybody goes to Dr. Messer. Eric Yarnhill is one of the top botanical people. He's out of Bastyr in Washington State. He's written all the books on botanical. Everybody goes to Eric Yarnhill. He'll be here for the Southwest Botanical Conference. You know, there are acupuncturists, everything else. What are you going to be in our profession? What's everyone going to see you about? I also recommend finding a specialty that you like as well. I found gut health. I have celiac disease. And so that resonates with other people. The people who get autoimmune and gut health, what I learned is they're all like me. They're all stressed out, busy professionals, and the first thing to go is their gut. They start getting a stomach ache, they don't know why. They're executives who get like, you know, bubbly stomach and diarrhea, and they're like sitting in meetings like really uncomfortable and all this. So they come to see me, that's what resonates. I used to say, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do gut health, I do hormones, I do autoimmune disease, I like doing acupuncture. Like, no, gut. That took me to gastroenterology. What do gastroenterologists do? Well, gastroenterologists scope and drug, and they cut, and they're really, really good at it. I went to the gastroenterologist for my 10-year scope on celiac. Brand new patient, they spent 4 minutes with me. 4, new patient, new doctor, new patient, 4 minutes. I counted. I'm like, wait, where are you going? If they can see it, they can treat it. I realize that. I have a number of patients with small intestine bacterial overgrowth. If you know anything about this condition, there are 4 phases to go through, and it takes weeks and months. I've seen SIBO reports from gastroenterologists where they just give rifaximin and walk away. Oh, you have SIBO, great. They ran the test, you have SIBO, they give the antibiotic, it's $2,300 by the way, and they walk away. And the person gets it again, and again, and again. That's gastroenterology. So I figured out, okay, where are the holes in gastroenterology? You know, where can I refer people to gastroenterologists? Well, they definitely need colonoscopies and endoscopies, but there are some very specific conditions that we treat better naturopathically than they do. And I found those. I've researched them. You know, SIBO's one. They treat acute stuff really, really well because they can scope it and cut it and everything else. They can get a $5 proton pump inhibitor at CVS. Great. That works for a while. Then you get chronic. We do chronic really, really well. So that's my specialty. I have docs in my practice who specialize in cardiology. He's the cardiologist. Dr. Chambers is one of the pain people. You know, Dr. Smithers does hormones. She's one of the hormone people. You know, what are you going to be the naturopathic doctor of? You have to be thinking about that, because as I got out there and networked, what all the business owners tell me is the riches are in the niches. It doesn't mean you don't treat everything. It just means that you have a lead. You lead with something. And then what ends up happening is people say, they get better because you specialized in it and you did well. They get better, and then they go, hey, my husband has like a hormone thing. Do you think that's, you know, or my son has this. Do you think you can do that? Of course, I'm a doctor. I can do anything. But you gotta lead with something. So find something within the profession that can make you an expert, that you enjoy, and also find something that resonates out there, that is a niche, because it'll build on itself, and eventually all these people will feed you once they know what you're all about. And the other thing is when you niche out like that, your mentors become really obvious. Here in our clinics, we have amazing general practitioners, and I was lucky to become friendly with so many of them. But there's also a lot of them that I can't go to, like for gut health, for instance. But I did join gastro A&P. There is an onco A&P for docs in our profession who like cancer, or don't like it, but they treat cancer exclusively. There is an endo A&P for people who are into hormones. All of a sudden, when you niche out like that, your mentors become obvious. There's only 2 other doctors in town who specialize, at least in gastro A&P, who specialize in gut health. I went up to the annual convention in Portland, and Mona Morstein was the only person there. It was great. She was one of my mentors. So, and I found others within the profession that I can reach out to on phone calls and Zoom calls, and when we go to these things, and you got to show your face on a regular basis to start to get that. So these are some things that you really need to think about. And again, I will just say that the networking starts now. Just because you're in school doesn't mean that you can't reach out to other doctors. Doesn't mean that you can't reach out to others. In fact, you are at an advantage because you're a student. That's really important. Hey, I'm a student at SCNM. I'm really interested in learning about this. There is no doctor who doesn't want to be there for you and help you out. And so, don't be intimidated. Reach out, because it's going to take a lot of wax in the ball, so to speak, to really figure out what you like. But you got to see it, and you can't wait until graduation or until that October when you get your license after graduation, when you've already spent 4.5, 5 years doing this. It starts now. The more you can utilize Joanna and her resources, use the resources and contacts that you have here within the school. Your professors are doctors. Most of them are naturopaths. Talk to them about what they do. Take them out to coffee. We're flattered, believe me, especially me because I'm new. But they're flattered, and they'll do it. They're busy. They're running busy practices. They're doing things, but most of them will do it. Everybody wants to help. And if you think that you want to go, shoot knees with prolotherapy, great. And then you go and you see it happen, and you're afraid of needles, and you faint in Dr. Inouye's office or downstairs at the pain center. Well, then pain is not your thing. That's really, really important. If you come spend a day with Dr. Weiss up in our office and see him treat, cardiology, and you're completely confused about the interactions of, those myriads of drugs, and it's very, very complicated stuff, and you go, oh, I'm out, this is too complicated. That's very, very important to know now, not 4 years from now when you're a doctor trying to figure out how you're going to eat. So that's get out there, network, be intentional about it. You have to think about these things on a day-to-day basis. You might have a test coming up, a midterm, a quiz, something you need to study. This is just as important. Spend 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, thinking about how you're going to get out there and network. What are you interested in? What are you going to become the naturopathic expert in? What can you teach an MD? Because you deal with them every day. Oh, I didn't know that. So those are some things that you should take away. And if you do those things, you'll have many, many good days and very few bad days. So anyway, thank you. I'm open to any questions that you have right now. Come on, sir. And what's your name?
Chris Davis.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
I'm finishing my first year.
Excellent.
Thank you for your talk, your speech. It was awesome.
Thank you very much.
In terms of preparation and protocol development,
Yeah.
Is there anything that you did specifically to develop a myriad of protocols that you would put your patients through?
That's a great question. Did everybody hear that? How do you develop protocols to put your patients through? A couple different things. One, that comes more into play when you're in the clinic itself, and it's something you think about more as a fourth year because you're leading the cases and you're dealing with the patients on a regular basis. So those patients, you own them; they're your patients. You're under the doctor, but they're your patients, your cases, and you need to be. You end up preparing for those cases. That's a real easy way to create protocol because you have to have it that day for fourth year. But I would walk it back when you're third year in the clinic and you're just sitting there taking notes. Start taking notes of other people's protocols so that when you're a fourth year, you've already got half a dozen things in your back pocket that you're already thinking about. The other thing is to, one, go back to the things that you're interested in. Those will be easier protocols to come up with right this minute. If, for instance, I'm gut health, constipation, diarrhea, those sorts of things are really important. But you're gonna learn more of that when you get into clinical sciences in third and fourth year. I think right now it's more about, for you in the first year, it's more about just survive, just keep swimming, and it's like Dory from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. That's what they told us. But just get through the medical science piece of it, and some of those things will become self-evident in the clinical science piece. Your professors actually will have some protocol information in their lectures, but the application of that is the fine art of that. When you're third year in the clinic, kind of secondary, that's where you want to be very attentive and taking notes. You're not only taking notes for that fourth year who's leading the case, but you're taking notes for you 2 years down the line when you're out on your own. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Good question. Anybody else? Questions?
I really like that you mentioned the fact that there's this big gap, because I think everyone between income coming in and income going out.
Yeah.
So you're like the second person to say it, but you guys can only do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shocker, and if you're not prepared for it, it can be difficult for some people. They tell you all throughout your fourth year, and even before, it's not a surprise. And I want to emphasize that, it's not a surprise. Everybody knows it's coming. I emphasize it here because when I was invited to do this talk, I put it out to my network. I said, well, what didn't you guys know? Like, oh my gosh, I was driving Lyft during the summer when we were taking work. Imagine that, you just went to medical school and you're driving like Lyft and you're going, like, come on, we're doctors, and you're driving a taxi. Like, nothing against taxi drivers or Uber drivers or anything, but that's a shocker, right? Some people, aren't prepared for that. Some people aren't prepared for the 50-50, fee split, that on the front end. You have to think about, how am I going to make money? The cool thing about being a naturopath is we're also entrepreneurs. There are a lot of solo practitioners. There are a lot of classmates who partner up. There's lots of old docs that partner up. There's a lot of docs who are getting out of the business, like they're retiring. Hey, they've been doing this 40 years. They're looking to sell their practice or moving on to the person in the next generation. That just doesn't magically fall in your lap. Jobs do not magically fall in your lap. Those situations don't fall in your lap. You actually have to go out and get it, and you got to be thinking about it now. And I don't say any of those things to stress you out or add to what's already a pretty crazy workload. I say them because you need to be mindful as you're going through school so that these things don't happen at the last minute. And the resources are here for you. That's the beauty of it. Join us department. They're there for you. Anna Boras, you can go and sit down and talk with her on financial planning at any time. And she, throughout your third and fourth year, will be talking about the loans and the gap and the repayment plans and things like that, that you have to prepare. So that's why I emphasize it, because I had a lot of classmates who weren't prepared, and they were the ones who reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I was not prepared. And nobody wants to be in that position. You want to be able to focus in, take your boards, be networking for jobs if you don't already have it when you're at graduation. looking forward to your residencies. Whatever it happens to be, you want to be in a power position there, and you don't want to have to worry about finances and other things. You should know in the back of your head what you're already going to do.
And you mentioned, sorry.
And last question. Home run?
You mentioned like partnering with docs, you meant independent contractors?
Yeah. Many doctors are independent contractors, and they contract with other doctors' offices. Another great thing about being a naturopath in an independent contractor situation is you can design your lifestyle. You can see patients 3 days a week and decide to, do what you want. You cram patients into those days and do what you want the rest of the week. Spend a day doing admin. You can kind of design your life. It's pretty cool. But it does come in the beginning, you have to ramp that up. You have to go out and get patients. They're not going to be handed to you. So as long as you're mindful of that process and that you've got to go out there and network and get patients, you'll be very, very successful. That's my time, everybody. Thank you very much.